Fayha, you did very good. Focus, that's one of the exercises we worked on. This is Fayha's roadmap to success. Now, she is really a great dog. She was a little bit worked up when I first got here, but she didn't show any aggression towards me whatsoever. She did a little bit of protesting, maybe is a better way to put it. But I used some treats, and she was very comfortable with them. With me once as that happened. Sit. Come here. We want you on camera for at least part of this. All right, so basically she has separation anxiety, and she's destroyed several kennels. We just got done, we were in the basement, which is where the kennel was, and the kennel is basically in a laundry room. It's an unfinished room, and for dogs to be excluded from the group is really a punishment. So I'm pretty sure that she actually looked at that as kind of a punishment, and at very least a negative. So the guardian, because she has kind of destroyed the kennel, is going to need to order another one. Now the kennel that she has right now is a little bit too big for her. She doesn't have accents, so it's not the biggest thing in the world to have an oversized kennel for a dog that's already potty trained. But they're really just going to be sleeping in it, so it doesn't really need to be that big. Now, I would recommend putting it in here because this is we're in the main hangout room. This is where the guardian hangs out all the time. This way it's comfortable because the dog has practice being in this room and it doesn't look like it's being ostracized. Now we went through, started off the session by going over a number of things to help flip the leader-follower dynamic through our actions before we got to exercises. So one of the first things that we talked about was exercise. The guardian's aware of the fact that she's not exercising the dog enough. Unfortunately, Fayha is, now you said what it means in Spanish, now I can remember immediately. But basically, exercise is best sprinkled throughout the day. Now, she's in a kennel for longer than 4 hours. Any dog's going to start developing cortisol in their blood. And so we'd like to see if we can have a relative who lives nearby come by and let her out. Now, it'd be nice if the relative can come by and do the up-downs on the stairs, play fetch, something that's going to burn some excess energy. Dogs are really great athletes, and they need little bursts of exercise throughout the day. Right now, the guardian's walking her, but she's doing it when she gets back home from work, which is, although it's good to exercise at any point, it's nowhere near as effective as it would be earlier in the day. So I'd like the guardian to do some up-downs on the stairs, or use the laser, or play fetch, or go for a walk, or a combination thereof. Just make sure she doesn't over-exercise right before she feels really good. Before you go to work, if she's in a kennel, we don't want her to have accidents in the kennel or have to hold it for that long. I'll just give you that one just because you're looking cute. All right, so basically moving the kennel will help, and I'll talk about the kennel in a minute, but we talked about a lot of interactions, and so she was jumping up and invading her guardian's personal space, and her guardian was petting her. Now, it's important to remember, anything your dog is doing when you pet it is what you're specifically rewarding. So if I let Fayha jump up on me and I pet her, I'm saying that when you jump up on me, I will pay you or pet you for doing that, and that will encourage that behavior more often. So to help flip the leader-follower dynamic, one of the first things I like to do is go over rules and structure, and that way we're enforcing rules so the dog sees us acting like a leader. We go through life probing to push the boundaries. We push the rules to see what we can get away with. Dogs push the boundaries to see where the limit is. They're waiting for us at some point to tell us this is how far is too far. And so if we don't have any rules, it's hard for them to understand how far they can go. And after a while, if they have no rules, if I'm driving down the street and no cop ever pulls me over, I'm like, I'm above the law. And so I think that she thinks she's peers with her guardian and that she might need to protect her guardian because she's not always been dog aggressive or human aggressive. These are things that have gotten progressively worse. So I'd like the guardian to start incorporating more structure in her day-to-day life. Instead of petting her for no reason or when she jumps up, we're going to ask her to sit. We're going to do petting with a purpose. So if she nudges us, puts her paws on us, or jumps up or does any sort of initiation, we're going to give her a command word, tell her to sit. When she sits, pet her under her chin, say just the word sit. If she's already sitting and she's pawing at you, ask her to come and sit over here or lay down. If you're petting her and she puts her paw on your arm, immediately stop petting. The cessation of petting her, stop petting her with precise timing is a great way of saying, I don't like that activity. Another way to do it would be to leave the room completely. That's a negative punishment. So basically, if the guardian, when she comes home from work and she's all excited for the door, what I would do is maybe if you have her in the laundry room, which is where she's at now, open the door just a crack. And she's going to try to shove her head through, just wait, and she whimpers and whines and cries, nada. I'm only open the door when you're calm. As soon as she sits, start to open the door a little bit more. As soon as she gets up, start closing the door. Keep it back to about an inch. And eventually you'll have to go back and forth, hopefully a little bit more each time. And eventually she stays calm and sitting, then you can open the door all the way. And then I wouldn't say come. Once I open the door, I would just kind of walk away from her. She'll come with you. And when she's all excited, don't pet her. Excited is an unbalanced state of mind. It's just same, it's different, but it's unbalanced, just like fearful, stress, and the rest. So as soon as you start reaching for her, she starts wiggling. Put your arm back. Don't say no. Say no through your actions and withdraw that attention and just do your own thing. It might be several times. Eventually, you get all the way and you can actually pet her and she stays calm. But she needs practice at staying calm. I think being out of balance is part of the reason why she's gotten into so much trouble. All right, so some of the rules we went over: not being allowed in the furniture because the higher a dog sits, the more rank or social standing they have. Also, there's a couch in front of the house that faces the window, and I think she gets up there and looks out and practicing being a guard dog. The guardian may want to get a 3 feet wide slice of paper and tape it on the bottom part of the window. So when she goes, even if she can look through, she can't see anything. And if she goes there over and over, can't see, then after a while she'll stop trying to practice that because I can't see anything when I get there. Now we can also use something like X mats that you can get on Amazon and put those on the so that she can't get up there to block her from that as well. And that way, if we have guests, we come and put them underneath. Now I also showed the guardian. We'll get back to rules in a second, but I showed the guardian how you can use classical conditioning to condition your dog to move away from the door. So we need 2 people for this. So when there's an N person in this relationship, when the N man is here, he would maybe be outside or she'd be inside, vice versa. And we're basically going to throw a treat in the corner. And when the person outside, they're going to have their finger on the doorbell because the timing is really precise. Remember, you have 3 seconds to correct reward. So as soon as the dog comes over and licks up, ding dong. So the dog hears the ding dong when I'm licking a treat up way over here away from the door. If you do this enough, practice this enough, eventually ding dong will make the dog go over there instead of going to the door. And she's kind of in a territorial about that, so I think that helping her develop a new behavior there will be really beneficial. Let me see. Also, every once in a while, she's pretty good about that. The doorbell seems to be a stronger trigger for her. But I have 4 dogs, and they bark like crazy. Every once in a while, I'll just knock on the wall for no reason. And if I'm walking by the door, I knock on the door. And it causes them to go excited, but then nobody comes to the door. So that desensitizes them from that. All right, other rules: not being allowed to be in the kitchen when the guardian's preparing food. Not be allowed within 7 feet. I'll be able to show you one right here. Fayha, off. So when she gets on the furniture, just drop a treat on the floor, and when she licks it up, say the word off. Remember, anytime the treat goes in the dog's mouth, they should hear the command word immediately after, not before. So one of the rules would be not be allowed in the kitchen when I'm preparing food. Not being allowed within 7 feet of the dinner table when the guardian's eating. That's a little bit hard to do. Well, we can help the dog practice and put the dog in position to succeed. Yes, I'm talking about you. So when you're going to cook, you're actually thinking about all the ingredients and how the order you put them in and stirring and all the rest of that stuff. You're distracted. Your timing's not very good. So what I'd like you to do is for about a week, every time you go in the kitchen to cook, first of all, go in the kitchen and turn as soon as you get on the door because she's going to follow you. And then face her and take 1 step back. As she comes forward, take a step towards her. Same thing I told Guardian, and this is how I'd like you to release her from the kennel. For the kennel door, go down, well, I'll do this and I'll come back to the kennel in a sec. So basically take a step back, and if she stays in place, take another step back and pause. Pause a 1/4 second in between each step. And you might have to do this several times before she figures out she doesn't want me to go in the kitchen. And as soon as she sits or lies down, always take a big step backwards. That's a way of saying that's what I liked. Eventually what you want to do, and before you do this, maybe set it up with a piece of bacon on a plate in the microwave. And then microwave that, and then pull it out and put it on the counter. Dog's like, oh, it smells like bacon. There's food. I'm going to come in. And then you go to correct her. And then you go through simulating cooking. Open the cupboards, pots and pans, and turn the stove on and all that fun stuff. Every time she tries to come in, you stop what you're doing and you race towards her using that 3rd escalating consequence until she stays out of the kitchen. Once she lays down, and it doesn't matter what you're doing, she doesn't try to come in, then you put the bacon and stuff away, and then you cook your actual meal. We did a warm-up. After about a week of this, she'll just stay out of the kitchen. You do the same thing, microwave a piece of roast beef or something like that when you're sitting at the kitchen table. Same sort of thing. When we're eating, we're distracted. So we do a practice session when the dog lays down, then we actually do our real meal. What was the thing I said I was just come back to?
Kennel.
What?
The kennel.
The kennel. Okay, so if I go to the door and I go to the kennel and the dog's all excited and I let the dog out of the kennel, it's going to explode. And I'm rewarding unbalanced, crazy, excited energy. So what I do instead is if this is a kennel door, I would go and go to the kennel and start reaching for the door. And as soon as she starts wiggling, put her arm back. So again, kind of, you're noticing a theme. I've gone through this with multiple things. Eventually I can touch it and jiggle it and she stays calm. Then I would open it, but I would immediately step in front of it, so the door is here and the kennel, the actual entryway is here, but the door is swung open, and I'm blocking the exit with my legs. And then I'm going to do kind of what I showed you off camera downstairs and take a step back, and don't move slowly. Go step, step. As she tries to come out, step forward right away and hiss. And eventually you'll get to the point where you'll be able to, she'll stay in there and you can be several feet away. Now, at first what I told the guardian to do is wait until the dog sits before she lets the dog out. Once she starts sitting right away, as soon as we put her in the kennel, or open the kennel door, then we're going to start adding 2 seconds, 4 seconds, 6 seconds, or we can transition to making her LAY. I'm not going to take a step back, or I'm not going to let you out until you LAY. And then once she LAYs consistently, then wait 2 seconds, 4 seconds, 6 seconds. Eventually, I get to the point where I can come on, open the kennel door, and leave and go take a bath or a shower, and then change clothes, get dressed, make dinner, and then say release, and then the dog would run out of the kennel. So you might want to come up with a word that means to be released from the kennel specifically. Freedom, vacation, since we're calling the destination kind of a fun Caribbean name to go in the kennel. Remember, always toss a treat in there, and then when she licks it up, we're going to say the B word. And then after you do this and she lays down, then make sure afterwards you throw 1 or 2 treats in and let her go in and get it out without actually having to wait. So this way she doesn't feel like, when the door's open, I just rush out of there. Now, the kennel's going to be actually up here in the living room, which makes it a lot easier. So we want to help her practice being in the kennel in multiple capacities when we're watching TV. So basically, we can do things like throwing a bunch of treats in the kennel and close the door with her outside the kennel, making her want to go in there. We can put a bully stick or something like that in there and not let her go in there. And then when she does go in there, she has to stay in the kennel. Now, you do the same sort of thing with the door open. So you put the bully stick in, close the door, and she's pawning, and when you do open it and let her go in there, then you step up behind and don't let her exit the kennel. Wait for her to lay down and start chewing it, then take a step back, left, right, pause. And she starts to come out with it, boom. So what you're saying is you can chew on the bully stick, but only inside the kennel. This creates a positive association with the kennel. And eventually you get to the point where you can sit here laying on the couch watching TV, and she's in there chewing the kennel, and the door's wide open. So the 2 things that she doesn't like, number 1, I'm not restrained, because the door's open, and the guardian's right there. And I'm practicing developing good positive memory engrams in the kennel, being nice and calm. Let me see, what else? You can also use a marrow bone, drill through the marrow, and then zip it to the bottom of the kennel. Usually I do it in the first horizontal bar. That way it's comfortable for them. If it's too low or too high, it's not very comfortable for them to do that. And again, don't let them take those things out of the kennel. It's only for in the kennel. And then it might not be a bad idea to help her sleep in the kennel from time to time. She's probably going to protest, and the guardian going to have to kind of decide what she was going to do for that battle. Let me see. But the idea is, again, helping her practice being calm in the kennel. Another rule would be that she has to sit before we let her in or out of the door outside. And I say sit once. If she doesn't sit within 3 seconds, and I walk away. Wait 1 minute, then go back and tell her to sit again. If she doesn't sit within 3 seconds this time, I walk away for 2 minutes, then for 4 minutes, then for 8 minutes. Keep double the length of time. Eventually she'll go sit at the door as her way of saying she'd like to go outside. The guardian has been free feeding her, so I went over the benefits of giving her more of a structured feeding. The guardian should eat something first, and then give her permission to eat. Now, does she eat all of her food? When you give her, no, she leaves. Okay, so as soon as she walks more than 4 feet away from her bowl, pick up the bowl, dump the empty back in the bag, and put the empty bowl back on the ground. And then 99% of the time, the dog will go and lick the empty bowl. What we're saying is, when it's time to eat, you better eat. And in the wild, there's no refrigerator or Burger King. So if they don't eat, they have to wait till the next event before they get an opportunity to eat. And so this way, the guardian's going to eat in front of her, which is going to help her see the guardian's having more authority. The guardians then give her permission to eat and use passive training. So when she takes her first bite of food, call it pizza or Italian or whatever you want to say. Fun words. Remember, come up with fun command words. And then she has to watch the guardian eat first. That means the guardian has more authority. The guardian's controlling the food, and the guardian tells me when to eat the food, and I eat after the guardian. So that's a whole bunch of mini lessons that go in there. And if she leaves some food and walks away, pick up the bowl and dump it. Once she walks away, the food goes away, and leave the empty bowl back down on the floor. That's important. And then if she doesn't eat, go to the next meal. Don't try to compensate. Everybody who cheats, then you're working against yourself. Hunger becomes your ally. You're giving the dog the opportunity to eat. If she turns her nose up and walks away, that's on her tab, not on your tab. But who blinks first is going to lose. And you have to let her know that I'm willing to stop what I'm doing and get my point across. One of the dirty secrets of dog behavior is to always outlast your dog. Now, I also went over petting with a purpose, which is basically when the dog demands attention, we're going to redirect her into a sit. If she's already sitting, ask her to lay down or do something along those lines. And as soon as she sits, pet her under her chin and say just the word sit, not a lot of other words, not sit, just sit. Remember, only say a command word maximum of 3 times. If she's over there, I say come as a command, she doesn't come, well then I'll give her a second chance. What I usually would do is I'd hold my hand up like this, and then I make a kissing sound, and most dogs look like she did, and I start lowering it, and that gets her to come to me, and then I say come. If that doesn't work, then the third time I would say come, really excited, happy voice. And if she doesn't come by the third time, then I would grab my leash, go over there, or whatever I'm going to do, attach the leash, and bring her over to you, and make sure you don't do it angrily. We don't want her to think, well, now she's pissed, and I'm definitely not going to come to her next time. So we're just going to go and make it happen. Let me see, what else? The door, like I said, the doorbell thing will help. I'm trying to think, anything else you can think of that I'm not going over? I'm sure there's a lot, but we went over a focus exercise too. So, off. That would be better to be thrown on the floor, but all right, so for the stay, we got the video above. I'd like you to practice the stay in short intervals, but at least 5 times a day. Days we work, just try to do a couple times before you go and after. But try to get to the point where you have her up to a 5-minute stay within a week, maybe 10 days at the maximum. Then you want to start incorporating distance, then distractions. And once you get to this point where you start doing distance, then you can put her in a stay, like I talked about in the video, and go get a drink of water or whatever it is. Now for the focus exercise, remember 1 second, 1 second for all 12 treats, then 1 second, 2 seconds for all 12 treats, and eventually 1 second, 15 seconds. Get to the 15-second mark within a week, then go outside and do it in your backyard, but let her go and sniff around first, and then go back to 1 second, 1 second, but maybe you can do it a little faster. 1 second, 1 second for 3 treats, 1 second, 1 second for 2 seconds on the second movement for 3 treats, and so on and so forth. Eventually, I'd like you to do it on a walk when there's no other dogs around. As you're walking, and there's no dogs, you say focus, she looks up at you, and as you're walking, you're going and then say focus after the treat goes in her mouth. Once you get to that point, then if you do see another dog in the walk and you say focus, she's not going to look around for the other things, she's going to focus on you. Most of our dogs focus on the wrong things. This is a great, easy way to teach the dog to focus on us and help the dog get out of trouble before they can actually get in trouble. Now, she is a little dog reactive, but I'm optimistic that the rules and structure and all the things we went over in this session are going to help her start to see and identify the human as being the authority figure and demote her and remove that burden of responsibility from her shoulders. I'm pretty sure that she's stressed out because she thinks she's protecting the guardian, and the guardian doesn't listen, and that makes it worse. So the more that we enforce these rules and structure, pet with a purpose, passive training, the more the dog is going to start to see the human as a leader, and then I don't have to be worried about it myself. All right, well, this is, I should start calling you something else like Bonita, because her name is ugly in Spanish, and she is anything but. But this is Fayha, and this is her roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.